Welcome. What you are about to watch is not science fiction, and it is not folklore. It is a serious investigation into one of history's most compelling unresolved questions, the mystery of the Antikythera Mechanism, the 2,000-year-old computer that changed everything. Across the world, in universities, research institutes, and field excavations, serious scholars are wrestling with evidence that does not fit the accepted story. Evidence that has been documented, measured, and peer-reviewed, and that still has no satisfying conventional explanation. We are going to look at that evidence carefully, without prejudice in either direction, not dismissing what is extraordinary, but not accepting it without scrutiny either. The truth, as always, is in the details. In 1901, sponge divers off the Greek island of Antikythera pulled a corroded lump of bronze from a Roman shipwreck that had sunk around 65 BC. For 50 years, it sat in a museum drawer, largely unexamined, catalogued as an interesting curiosity. When scientists finally applied X-ray technology to its fragments in the 1970s, they found something that defied explanation: an intricate assemblage of at least 37 interlocking bronze gears, constructed to a precision that would not be matched for 15 centuries. The device predicted solar eclipses with accuracy. It tracked the movements of the 5 planets known to antiquity. It calculated the 19-year Metonic cycle of the lunar calendar. It even encoded the timing of the Olympic Games. This was not a curiosity. This was a fully functional astronomical computer, manufactured around 150 to 100 BC, and so far ahead of anything else known from its era that historians still struggle to explain where it came from. No comparable mechanism appears anywhere in the archaeological record for the next 1,500 years. The question is not simply how the Greeks built it. The question is what else they built that we have never found, and what it tells us about everything we thought we knew about the ancient world. This is where our investigation begins. Stay with us, because the further we go into the evidence, the more extraordinary it becomes. The story you think you know is only the surface. Beneath it lies something far more remarkable. Let us begin. Before we examine the specific evidence, we need to step back and understand the context. This case does not exist in isolation. It sits within the wider world of ancient technological anomalies, and to properly evaluate what we are looking at, we need to understand the broader picture that surrounds it. The official story of technological progress follows a reassuring arc: stone tools giving way to bronze, bronze to iron, iron to steel, and finally the Industrial Revolution catapulting humanity into the modern age. In this narrative, each generation inherits a slightly more sophisticated toolkit than the last, and no knowledge is ever truly lost. It is a comfortable story. It is also, in key respects, demonstrably false. History is littered with technological achievements that appeared centuries before their supposed invention, vanished after the cultures that created them collapsed, and were reinvented, often with great difficulty, by later civilizations who had no idea the knowledge had ever existed. Roman concrete was stronger and more durable than most modern concrete, and was not matched again until the 21st century. Greek fire, the incendiary weapon that protected the Byzantine Empire for centuries, has never been fully reproduced. Damascus steel, capable of holding an edge that modern metallurgists struggle to replicate, disappeared with the craftsmen who made it. These are not myths. They are documented historical losses of genuine technical knowledge. When we encounter an object from the ancient world that should not exist, a battery from Baghdad dated to the Parthian era, a computing mechanism salvaged from an ancient shipwreck, a map showing geographical features that were not officially discovered for another millennium, the temptation is to dismiss it as misidentified or misstated. That dismissal is sometimes warranted. But when such objects accumulate, when the pattern becomes too consistent to ignore, the honest response is to ask whether our model of ancient capability is simply wrong. This context matters because it tells us something important. What we are about to investigate is not an isolated curiosity. It is part of a pattern that researchers in multiple fields have been independently documenting for decades. And patterns in science demand explanation. With that foundation in place, let us now turn to the specific case at hand. Now we reach the heart of the matter, the core evidence surrounding the Antikythera Mechanism, the 2,000-year-old computer that changed everything is more extensive, more verified, and more troubling for conventional explanations than most people realize. Let us walk through it systematically, fact by fact, and allow the evidence to speak for itself. We are not going to speculate here. Every point that follows is documented in peer-reviewed publications, official archaeological records, or government archives that are publicly accessible. The question is not whether these facts are real. The question is what they mean. Consider this first extraordinary detail. The Antikythera shipwreck was discovered in 1900 by Greek sponge divers and excavated in 1901 off the island of Antikythera in the Aegean Sea. The vessel had sunk around 65 BC and carried luxury cargo including bronze and marble statuary. Among the recovered objects was a corroded bronze lump that proved to be the mechanism. 82 surviving fragments have been catalogued, ranging from small gear teeth to larger plates bearing inscribed text describing astronomical functions. This single data point, if taken in isolation, might be set aside. Anomalies happen, instruments malfunction, researchers make mistakes, but as we continue, you will see that this is not an isolated anomaly. It is part of a consistent and documented pattern, but that is only the beginning. Researchers also discovered analysis confirmed at least 37 interlocking bronze gears of extraordinary workmanship. The mechanism tracked the Metonic cycle, a 19-year period after which moon phases repeat on the same calendar dates, allowing accurate prediction of lunar events decades in advance. It also encoded the Saros cycle of approximately 18 years and 11 days, which governs the recurrence of solar and lunar eclipses at predictable intervals, providing a practical eclipse prediction calendar. Now, a skeptic might propose an alternative explanation for this, and that is entirely reasonable. We should always test alternative explanations before accepting extraordinary ones. The problem is that the alternative explanations, when examined carefully, create more problems than they solve. The mystery deepens when we examine. Tony Freeth and colleagues at the Antikythera Mechanism Research Project confirmed a planetary display on the front face in a landmark 2021 paper published in Scientific Reports. The reconstruction showed the mechanism displaying the positions of all 5 planets visible to the naked eye: Mercury, Venus, Mars, Jupiter, and Saturn, simultaneously, driven by an elaborate system of epicyclic gearing. This was a feat of miniaturized mechanical engineering not achieved again until the European Renaissance. This is where the conventional account begins to strain. Each individual fact might be dismissed or minimized in isolation. But the cumulative weight of the evidence is another matter entirely. Perhaps most remarkable of all, the back of the device features 2 large spiral dials. The upper spiral tracks the Metonic cycle of 235 lunar months across 19 years. The lower spiral encodes the Saros eclipse prediction cycle, subdivided into 3 exoligmos subcycles. A subsidiary dial indicated whether a predicted eclipse would be solar or lunar, and at approximately what time of day or night it would be visible, making the device a genuinely operational predictive instrument. Researchers who have examined this evidence have described it as genuinely difficult to explain within the accepted framework. These are not fringe commentators. They are credentialed academics publishing in mainstream journals, raising questions that the field has not yet satisfactorily answered. Then there is the matter of the 2005 computed tomography study by the Antikythera Mechanism Research Project revealed thousands of previously invisible Greek letters inscribed on interior surfaces of the corroded fragments. These texts include what appear to be operating instructions describing planetary movements. Dating of associated shipwreck objects places manufacture between approximately 150 and 100 BC, though the design tradition may originate earlier in the Hellenistic astronomical schools of Rhodes. What makes this particularly significant is its independence from the previous points. This is not a case of one theory requiring another. These are separate lines of evidence converging on the same uncomfortable conclusion. Adding to the enigma is this finding: no mechanism of comparable complexity appears in the archaeological record for approximately 1500 years after the Antikythera device. The next known geared astronomical instruments appear in Islamic scholarship around the 9th century AD, and comparable European clockwork mechanisms did not emerge until the 13th and 14th centuries. Cicero, writing around 60 BC, described a similar object attributed to Archimedes, but no such artifact has ever been recovered. Taken together, these facts form a pattern that cannot be explained by coincidence, misidentification, or methodological errors. Each piece of evidence has been examined by skeptics. Each has been subjected to alternative explanations, and in each case, the alternative explanation falls short of accounting for everything that has been documented. We are left with a body of evidence that demands explanation and an accepted narrative that does not provide one. This is where serious inquiry begins. Now that we have established the evidence, we need to examine the theories that researchers have proposed to explain the Antikythera mechanism, the 2,000-year-old computer that changed everything. This is where the debate becomes most intense, because the theories reflect not just different interpretations of the same evidence, but fundamentally different assumptions about what is possible and what the past looked like. Understanding these theories is not just an academic exercise. Each one has been championed by serious researchers with genuine credentials, and each one captures something that the others miss. The truth, if it is ever established, will likely draw on elements of several. The first major explanation proposed by researchers holds that the device was created by Archimedes or his school of mathematical engineering on the island of Rhodes. The Roman statesman Cicero wrote around 60 BC of a planetarium constructed by Archimedes that displayed the movements of the sun, moon, and 5 planets. Rhodes was a documented center of Hellenistic astronomical expertise. Critics note that Archimedes died in 212 BC, more than a century before the mechanism's estimated manufacture date, making direct authorship chronologically impossible. This interpretation has significant academic support and is backed by substantial evidence. But it is not without problems. Critics point out that it requires assumptions that go beyond what the evidence strictly supports, and that key predictions of this theory have not been confirmed by subsequent research. It remains contested, and the contest is productive. A rival school of thought argues that the mechanism is the surviving product of a sophisticated school of ancient Greek astronomical engineering, whose other work has entirely vanished from the historical record. Freeth's 2021 reconstruction demonstrated complexity far beyond previous assumptions, implying an extended developmental tradition rather than a single isolated invention. The complete absence of any predecessor device or technical literature describing its construction principles suggests either catastrophic archival loss or a deliberately restricted tradition of specialist knowledge. This theory is controversial, and deliberately so. Its proponents argue that the evidence demands an explanation outside the conventional framework. Critics counter that extraordinary claims require extraordinary evidence, and that the evidence presented, while suggestive, does not yet meet that standard. The debate continues in peer-reviewed literature. Perhaps the most unconventional theory suggests that Freeth's 2021 reconstruction proposed that the front panel displayed all 5 planets via epicyclic gearing, a mechanical solution to modeling irregular planetary motions as seen from Earth. This design requires the maker to have understood the mathematical epicycle theory attributed to Hipparchus. The central objection is that no other physical or textual evidence confirms Greek engineers translated such abstract astronomical mathematics into working geared mechanisms at this early date. What is striking about this debate is not merely that experts disagree. That is normal and healthy in science. What is striking is the quality of the disagreement. Serious researchers, working from the same body of evidence, reaching genuinely different conclusions. That level of fundamental disagreement, when it persists over decades, is a signal that something important has not yet been understood. The question is not which of these theories is right. The question is whether any of them is right, or whether the truth is something that none of the current frameworks has yet been able to capture. The case surrounding the Antikythera Mechanism, the 2,000-year-old computer that changed everything, does not rest on speculation alone. What distinguishes this investigation from pure mythology is the existence of documented, physical, verifiable evidence, material that has been examined by credentialed researchers and whose authenticity is not seriously disputed. What is disputed is its interpretation. Let us review the most significant documented evidence as objectively as possible. We are not going to cherry-pick the data that supports a preferred conclusion. We are going to lay out what exists and let you draw your own assessment. Physical evidence supporting this account includes: the first rigorous scientific analysis was conducted by physicist Derek de Sala Price of Yale University, who applied two-dimensional X-ray imaging in 1974 and published the landmark paper Gears from the Greeks. Price correctly identified the gearing system and proposed the device Functio NED as an astronomical computer, establishing the foundational framework for all subsequent research. His gear tooth counts were later revised by CT scanning, but his core interpretation proved essentially correct. This evidence has been subjected to independent verification. Skeptics have examined it. Alternative explanations have been proposed and tested. The data remains. The question of what it means remains open. Investigators have documented. The 2005 CT study by the Antikythera Mechanism Research Project revealed thousands of previously invisible Greek inscriptions on internal surfaces, functioning as a form of operating manual. These texts confirmed the Metonic and Saros cycle functions and identified the planetary display features. The inscriptions resolved decades of debate about the device's purpose and demonstrated it was a designed instrument rather than a decorative or ritual object. This evidence has been subjected to independent verification. Skeptics have examined it. Alternative explanations have been proposed and tested. The data remains. The question of what it means remains open. On-site analysis revealed. Cicero's writings of approximately 60 BC describe two instruments attributed to Archimedes and taken to Rome after the sack of Syracuse in 212 BC, one displaying sun and moon movements, the other showing planetary motions. If accurate, at least two comparable mechanisms existed in antiquity, and the engineering tradition producing them was known to educated Romans. No contemporary Greek technical text describing how to build such a device has survived. This evidence has been subjected to independent verification. Skeptics have examined it. Alternative explanations have been proposed and tested. The data remains. The question of what it means remains open. Each individual piece of evidence might, in principle, be explained away. A single anomalous artifact might be misidentified. A single anomalous date might reflect contamination. A single anomalous eyewitness account might reflect misperception. The question is whether all of the evidence can be explained away, and whether the explanations required are more or less plausible than the evidence itself. When multiple independent lines of inquiry converge on the same conclusion, that convergence is the most powerful signal in empirical science. And that is exactly what we are seeing here. We have examined the history, the evidence, and the theories surrounding the Antikythera Mechanism, the 2,000-year-old computer that changed everything. Now, we need to ask the question that is sometimes overlooked in discussions of ancient mysteries. Why does this matter? What does it mean for us today? It would be easy to file this away as an interesting historical curiosity. a puzzle from a distant past with no bearing on our present lives. That would be a fundamental mistake. The questions raised by this case touch on issues that are directly relevant to who we are, where we came from, and what the human story actually looks like before the period covered by conventional history. Tony Freeth and a team at University College London published a complete proposed reconstruction of the Antikythera Mechanism in 2021, including a front display panel showing all 5 planets in simultaneous motion, driven by epicyclic gearing. The UCL team subsequently built a working physical model. Ongoing fragment analysis continues to yield new data. Inscription studies refined understanding of the Saros dial in subsequent years. The mechanism's origin is most plausibly identified as roads, based on astronomical parameters encoded in the device matching Rhodian observational records. Despite over a century of study, the mechanism continues to force revisions in scholarly understanding of Greek technological capability, and the question of what other instruments may have existed and been lost remains genuinely open. Furthermore, the tools available to investigate these questions are advancing rapidly. Satellite imaging, ground-penetrating radar, ancient DNA analysis, isotopic tracing, and deep-sea sonar are all providing capabilities that previous generations of researchers could only dream of. Cases that were genuinely unresolvable 10 years ago are now open to new analysis, and the findings, consistently, are expanding rather than contracting the mystery. The investigation continues. New discoveries are being made. New analyses are being published. New voices are entering the conversation from disciplines that were not previously part of the discussion. The answers, when they come, and they will come, will not merely solve a historical puzzle. They will force a fundamental revision of assumptions that underpin our entire understanding of human history and human potential. We have now walked through the complete case of the Antikythera Mechanism, the 2,000-year-old computer that changed everything from the historical record through physical evidence across the competing theories and into the modern significance of what remains unresolved. What the story of Antikythera Mechanism ultimately reveals is not just a historical puzzle. It is a mirror. It reflects our assumptions back at us, our assumptions about what ancient people were capable of, about how knowledge is gained and lost across the centuries, and about the relationship between what we know and what we merely think we know. The evidence presented in this documentary is real. The questions it raises are genuine. The debate among researchers is ongoing, and that is healthy. Science is not a set of conclusions. It is a process, and the process requires that we remain open to evidence that challenges what we thought we knew, however uncomfortable that challenge might be. If you came to this documentary as a skeptic, we hope the evidence gave you something to think about. If you came as a true believer, we hope the critical examination gave you a more nuanced picture. The truth, as always, lies in the evidence, not in what we want to be true. Thank you for watching. If this investigation sparked your curiosity, please subscribe to the channel. We publish new documentaries every week, covering the full range of historical mysteries that the mainstream has not yet adequately explained. Leave a comment below telling us which case you want us to investigate next. The conversation continues. The investigation never ends.